Lily Harper tightened her grip on her suitcase as she stood before the towering gates of the Whitman estate. The sprawling mansion, framed by immaculate gardens, exuded an air of cold elegance. It was her first day as a private nurse, hired to care for Edward Whitman, a once renowned author who had fallen into a deep coma following a devastating accident. The gates creaked open with a mechanical hum, revealing a winding driveway lined with towering oaks. As Lily walked towards the entrance, her heart pounded, not with fear, but with determination. This wasn't just another assignment. It was an opportunity to make a real difference. The front door swung open, revealing Richard, the butler, whose demeanor was as severe as the mansion's grandeur. "Miss Harper," he said with a curt nod. "Mrs. Whitman is waiting for you in the study." Lily followed him through halls adorned with priceless artwork, each piece exuding the wealth and sophistication of a bygone era. When they reached the study, Charlotte Whitman stood waiting, a statuesque woman with icy eyes and an air of quiet authority. "I hope you understand the magnitude of your responsibility," Charlotte said, her voice as sharp as the lines of her tailored dress. "My husband requires constant care, and any negligence will not be tolerated." "Yes, Mrs. Whitman," Lily replied with quiet confidence. "I assure you I will give him my very best." The door to Edward Whitman's room creaked open, and Lily Harper took her first step into the space that would become her world. The room was vast, yet oppressively clinical, dominated by the hum of medical devices. Edward lay motionless in a specialized bed, his features still and pale, a shadow of the vibrant author whose photos adorned the walls. Lily placed her suitcase down and approached the bed. For a moment she stood silently, studying the man before her. Edward was in his late 40s, with streaks of silver in his dark hair, and the faint traces of a life once full of passion and creativity etched into his face. Richard, the butler, cleared his throat. "Mr. Whitman was always deeply involved in his work," he explained, his tone softening. "He wrote tirelessly, often inspired by the scent of lavender from his garden or the sound of classical music." Lily nodded, filing away this information. "Thank you, Richard. I'll take it from here." That evening, as the mansion settled into an eerie quiet, Lily began to create a plan. She reviewed Edward's medical records and noted his stagnant progress. Her instincts told her that traditional methods wouldn't be enough. She would need to engage more than his body. She would need to reach his mind. The next morning, Lily began her unorthodox approach. She filled the room with the scent of lavender, a fragrance she had learned Edward cherished during his writing sessions. Then she set up a small speaker and played a selection of classical music, Mozart, Bach, and Edward's favorite, Beethoven. "Good morning, Mr. Whitman," she said, pulling back the heavy curtains to let in sunlight. "It's a beautiful day. Let's get started." As she worked through her routine, she spoke to Edward as if he could hear her. She shared stories from her own life, her childhood on a farm, her decision to become a nurse after caring for her grandmother. "You might be wondering why I'm talking so much," she said with a soft laugh, "but I believe every word and sound is a bridge. Maybe one day, you'll cross it back to us." Days turned into weeks, and small changes began to emerge. During one session, as Lily played Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, she noticed a subtle flicker in Edward's eyelids. Another day, when the sun poured into the room, she swore she saw his fingers twitch. Encouraged, Lily expanded her efforts. She rearranged the room to make it less sterile, adding books and photographs that once inspired Edward's stories. A framed picture of Edward sitting with a sleek black cat on his lap caught her attention. She showed it to Richard. "That's Moon," Richard said, his usually stoic face softening. "Mr. Whitman's cat." They were inseparable. After the accident, Mrs. Whitman sent Moon to the summer house. She said the cat was a distraction. Lily's mind raced. "Do you think we could bring Moon back?" Richard hesitated, glancing down the hall as if expecting Charlotte to appear. "I believe it's possible," he said at last. "Mrs. Whitman rarely goes to the summer house. I'll make some inquiries." That night, Lily couldn't sleep. The thought of Mun reuniting with Edward gave her hope, a chance to spark a deeper connection. "We're going to bring you back," she whispered to Edward, one step at a time. As the moonlight bathed the mansion in a silvery glow, Lily felt a spark of determination. The afternoon sun poured into Edward's room, casting golden rays across the polished wood floors. Lily Harper stood by the window, her heart racing in anticipation. Today was the day Mun would return. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Richard entered, holding a sleek black cat with piercing green eyes in his arms. Mun gazed around the room cautiously, his tail flicking with curiosity. As soon as Richard set Mun down, the cat leapt onto the bed with the grace of a dancer. He sniffed Edward's hand, then settled by his side, curling up as though no time had passed since their last moment together. Lily held her breath, her eyes fixed on Edward's motionless form. For weeks, she had studied every twitch, every flicker, searching for signs of connection. And then it happened. Edward's fingers moved, faintly but unmistakably, towards Mun. His heart monitor beeped slightly faster, the first significant change in weeks. Lily clutched the edge of the bed, tears welling in her eyes. "Richard," she whispered, barely able to contain her emotion. "Look at this." The normally stoic butler stepped closer, his jaw tightening as he observed the scene. "Mr. Whitman always said Mun brought him peace," he murmured. "It seems he still does." As the hours passed, Mun remained by Edward's side, purring softly. The steady rhythm seemed to echo in harmony with Edward's faint movements. Later that evening, Charlotte appeared in the doorway, her gaze icy but her steps hesitant. "What is that cat doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp but laced with a hint of unease, as though unsure whether to reprimand or accept what she was witnessing. Lily stood her ground. "Lily is helping him." Edward responded to his presence, more than he has to anything else so far. Charlotte's lips thinned, her eyes narrowing as she looked between Edward and Mun. For a moment, her mask of indifference slipped, and something raw flickered across her face. She turned abruptly, muttering, "We'll see if it makes any difference." Despite Charlotte's dismissal, Lily's resolve only deepened. That night, she documented every detail. The subtle movement of Edward's fingers, the change in his vital signs, and the calming effect of Mun's presence. Before leaving the room, Lily gently stroked Mun's silky fur. "You're part of this journey now, Mun," she whispered. "Together, we're going to bring him back." As she glanced back at Edward's still form, Lily saw something she hadn't noticed before. A faint flicker of peace on his face, as though a part of him recognized that he wasn't alone anymore. The morning air was crisp and filled with the scent of pine as the car rolled to a stop in front of the small wooden cabin. This was Edward Whitman's writing retreat, the place where he had penned some of his most celebrated novels. For months, it had remained untouched, a relic of the past. Lily Harper climbed out of the vehicle, taking a deep breath. Behind her, Richard and two medical assistants carefully unloaded Edward, who lay in a transportable chair. His eyes remained closed, his body still, but Lily felt certain this trip would awaken something within him. "Are you sure about this?" Richard asked, his voice tinged with concern. "Yes," Lily replied firmly. "If anything can reach him, it's this place." They wheeled Edward into the cabin, and Lily immediately set to work recreating the environment that had once inspired him. She opened the windows to let in the fresh mountain air and arranged familiar objects on the desk. His favorite pen, a stack of old notebooks, and a framed photo of Mun curled up on the windowsill. Mun, who had accompanied them on the trip, leapt gracefully onto the desk, his green eyes fixed on Edward, as though silently urging him to awaken. He settled beside the photo, his purring growing louder, a steady rhythm that seemed to echo Edward's faint breaths, bridging the gap between past and present. "Edward," Lily said softly, kneeling beside his chair, "we're here. This is where you created your magic. Can you feel it?" She began playing a recording of a Beethoven sonata, the notes filling the cabin with a haunting beauty. As the music swelled, something extraordinary happened. Edward's eyelids fluttered, and his lips moved faintly. Charlotte, who had reluctantly agreed to accompany them, gasped. "Lily, look!" she exclaimed, stepping closer. Edward's lips parted, and a single, faint word emerged. "Charlotte." The room fell silent, the weight of that one word pressing upon them all. Charlotte sank to her knees beside Edward, her icy composure shattering like glass under the weight of his whispered word. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched his hand tightly, her voice breaking with emotion. "I'm here, Edward," she whispered, her fingers trembling against his. "I'm so sorry for all the time I wasted, but I'm here now. I promise I won't leave you again." Encouraged by the breakthrough, Lily continued speaking to him. She described the cabin, the sunlight streaming through the windows, and the scent of pine in the air. Slowly, Edward's hand twitched, his fingers curling slightly around Charlotte's. Munn stretched lazily on the desk, his purring a steady, soothing rhythm. It was as though the cat knew his presence was part of Edward's awakening. "Do you remember this place?" Charlotte asked, her voice trembling. "The summers we spent here, the nights you stayed up writing while I read by the fire?" A tear slipped from Edward's eye, and his lips moved again, though the words were faint. Charlotte leaned closer, her heart breaking and healing all at once as she caught fragments of his whisper. Memories of their time together, moments long buried, but now stirring back to life. Lily stepped back, giving them space. She watched as Charlotte's hand never left Edward's, her expression filled with something Lily hadn't seen before. Unguarded love. That evening, as they prepared to leave, Lily took one last look at the cabin. She knew this day marked a turning point, not just in Edward's recovery, but in the Whitmans' relationship. The cracks in their marriage, once hidden beneath layers of bitterness, were beginning to heal. When they returned to the mansion, Edward's progress continued. He began responding more clearly, his fingers moving deliberately, his lips forming words with growing strength. Charlotte stayed by his side, no longer the detached figure she once was. Munn, ever faithful, curled up on Edward's bed each night, his presence a constant source of comfort and connection. For the first time, Lily allowed herself to believe fully in the impossible. Edward Whitman was coming back, not just to his family, but to the life he had once built, and to the man he used to be. The Whitman estate had transformed. Where there was once an air of despair, now there was life, light, and possibility. Edward Whitman, though not yet fully recovered, sat upright in his wheelchair, his eyes clear and alert as Charlotte read aloud from one of his favorite books. Munn curled contentedly at his feet, purring softly. Lily Harper stood by the window, watching the scene with quiet pride. Edward could now speak in short sentences and had even started writing simple notes, a monumental achievement for someone who, months earlier, was thought to be unreachable. His recovery was not just physical, but emotional, reconnecting him with his wife and the world he loved. "You've worked wonders here," Charlotte said, glancing at Lily with a rare, genuine smile. "I don't know how we can ever thank you." Lily shook her head. "This was never just my work. It was Edward's strength, your love, and Munn's unwavering presence. I was just part of the team." Inspired by Edward's progress, the Whitmans and Lily decided to establish the Whitman Foundation for Creative Recovery, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping artists and writers heal from trauma. The first official meeting of the foundation was held in Edward's study. As the plans unfolded, Edward's voice, though still soft, carried determination. "This is our chance to give back, to bring hope to others the way you all brought it to me." As Lily left the mansion that evening, she glanced back at the warm glow of the lights and thought about the journey they had taken together. Edward wasn't the only one transformed. They all were. Lily found a new purpose in her life, Charlotte rediscovered the love she thought was lost, and Edward reclaimed his voice and creativity. Together, they proved that, even in the face of despair, hope and connection could bring about miracles.